everybody. It is Gina here at the Library Mouse. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. Hopefully you like this video enough to check out my others and to stick around, subscribe, comment, and like. So this is my June wrap-up, and I was filling out my reading journal. I actually had to put extra space because I went over my goal. Generally, my goal is 5 books a month, and I did 7 books this month, so I was pretty pleased. And I did not finish. I think what's causing me to be more focused on my reading is the fact that I started to go back to the library again. And in the past, I guess since COVID, I've been using my library card to read ebooks from the Libby system, but I really haven't gone to the library. And I made up my mind that I was going to frequent the library like I always used to do. And I think it's helped me because, I know I have to return my library books. So I need to get them finished. And that's what happened this month. So the first 2 library books that I finished, I have already talked about. So if you go back to my May, June, if I can link it here, I will. But I'll link it in the description box. If you go back to my May, June, May wrap up, June TBR, I already talked about the first 2 books that I read, so I'm not going to go back over them again. I finished them fairly quickly, like the first couple days of June. So the first one was Someone Knows by Lisa Scotoline. It was a suburban thriller. I liked it. I didn't like the climax. I thought it was very theatrical, something you might see, like, I don't know, in a movie, and you're like, oh, okay. But other than that, I liked the book. I gave it 4 stars. And the other book was Island House by Nancy Thayer. It was very much a light summer beach read, and I gave that 4 stars. So, moving on. I did read The Girls with No Names. This is by Serena Burdick. I really liked this book. It was about these 2 girls, 2 sisters, Luella and Effie Tilden. They're growing up in New York City in the 1910s. And Luella is the older sister. She very much feels constrained by society, by the norms of the day, and she's rebellious. And her parents don't like it, especially her father. And one day, the younger sister wakes up and finds that her sister is missing. Now, she believes, the younger sister's named Effie, and she has a heart condition. Effie suspects that her father has sent her sister to the House of Mercy, which was a home for wayward girls and women. It was run by nuns in New York City. It's a real place. And let's just say that the treatment that they received there was not good. And of course, at that time, a man could commit any woman that he wanted into this house and get rid of her very easily. And unfortunately, that happened a lot. I'll link a website down below where I found out more information. But because Effie suspects her father has sent her sister to this House of Mercy, she gets herself committed. And she learns what it's like to live there. It was a good book. It was a very good book. I really, really enjoyed it. She has also written A Girl in the Afternoon. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved the book. And it's funny because I was talking about the cover of this book and in the last video, and someone had mentioned, oh, it's funny because other people were like, oh, these nonfiction books that have these kind of covers. Yeah, I will pick this up. I will pick this up over this. I like matte finished books. Almost all the books that I buy at Goodwill or book fairs or bookstores have a matte finish cover. It's just something about it. But anyway, The Girls with No Name by Serena Burdick. Then I read The Music of Bees, which I loved. So The Music of Bees is by Eileen Garvin, and the book centers around 3 main characters. The main characters, we have 44-year-old Alice. So Alice is a widow. She's also a beekeeper, and she's pretty much just kind of pulled back from family and friends since her husband passed away. Then she has panic attacks. She has very bad panic attacks. So then we also have Jake. He's a troubled paraplegic teenager who does not get along with his father, and she almost hits him with her car. Well, she does hit him with her car, and just the wheelchair. Like, she doesn't hurt him, but it was enough for their paths to cross and for him to get involved in her life. And the third person is, you feel really bad for this guy. It's Harry. He's 24. He has debilitating social anxiety, and he's desperate for work. He's basically homeless, and he sees an ad for help on this bee farm. Is that what you call bee farm? And he answers the ad. And it's how, all 3 of these characters, I don't want to say they're not social outcasts, but they all have trouble socially. Whether it be social anxiety or panic attacks or feeling worthless because they're in a wheelchair. And it's how all 3 of these characters, by working together, help each other and become a family of their own. I really liked it. It was very highly detailed about beehives and keeping bees, which I kind of skimmed through that. But the characters, I really, really liked the characters in this book. So this one I gave 4 stars. Did not finish. Same beach next year. I'm going to read about it though, because who knows? Maybe you would like to read it. So it's these 2 couples, and they have a chance meeting while they're all on vacation at the Isle of Palms. Now, the thing is, one of them used to date the other, like the opposite couple. So it's former sweethearts Adam Stanley and Eve Landers. Adam and Eve. Turned me off right there. Their respective spouses, Eliza and Carl, fight sparks of jealousy flaring from their imagined rekindling of old flames. So as Adam and Eve get caught up on their lives, their partners strike up a deep friendship and flirt with an unexpected attraction of their own. And every year, they decide to meet at this particular condo. It's almost like that movie, Same Time Next Year, where they grow closer with each passing day, building a friendship that will withstand family tragedy and devastating heartbreak. I don't know why I didn't I couldn't finish this book. I guess I didn't. Okay, I guess when I think about it, I guess the main reason why I didn't finish this book is I didn't like these characters. I didn't like these people. I didn't like them. So I really have a hard time reading books where at least one character, like, you feel an attachment to. And I didn't feel an attachment to these people at all. So I don't even know how far I got. I can't even see where I dog-eared this book. Well, it's a library book, so I wouldn't dog-ear it anyway. But yeah, you might like it. I usually like Dorothea Benton Frank, so I didn't finish. The next book that I read, I loved this book. It is called What You Wish For. So it centers on a teacher named Samantha. And, well, she's a librarian at this school. And she left her old job because she was basically in love with this guy named Duncan, who was the principal. And he was funny, but he was just a great guy, but he didn't know she was alive, she thinks. And she was so obsessed with him, she decided she needed to get out. And she needed to leave, so she did. And she went to teach at another school district. And it's a private school where the teachers have kind of like a free reign to do what they want. Very artsy, fun, open school, child-centered. And suddenly she hears that Duncan is going to be the principal at her new school. So she's kind of excited about it in a way because she knows what a great personality he is. But on the other hand, she does not want to start obsessing over this guy again. And then he shows up at school, and he is the exact opposite of how he used to be. And he decides that the school is going to go down a totally different path, which sets Samantha and the rest of the staff into an uproar. And Samantha spends a lot of time in the book trying to dig, like, what is going on? What made this man go from the most relaxed, happy, wonderful man to be this very strict, authoritarian principal? And it's very good. It's very well written. I loved the characters in the book. Definitely, this one got 5 stars. It's What You Wish For by Catherine Center. Okay, next book on my list was Prairie Tale by Melissa Gilbert. As you know, I loved Little House on the Prairie growing up. I was so thrilled when I saw the trailer that the show was going to be made into a series. The book was going to be made into a series. It was going to be on TV, and I could actually watch it. Although, throughout the show, Melissa Gilbert was not my favorite. I resonated more with Mary, I think. And so every time Laura did something, I was like, can't you just behave? I know, fun child, wasn't I? But I got this book because we're the same age, and I just thought it would be interesting to see her take on what it was like to be a child actress in the 70s and in the 80s. It was very interesting, especially if you have any connection at all to Little House on the Prairie, Melissa Gilbert. It was interesting. It wasn't highly well written, although it was written as if she was talking to you. So I think that a memoir, that is the whole idea with a memoir. But it was still very interesting. It had some photos I could have used more. And it just went up to her younger adult years, because this book is a little bit older. She has written another book that focused on her remodeling of this little cabin that she and her husband bought in the Catskill Mountains, and they stayed in it and kind of worked on having this little sanctuary during COVID. And I found that book more engaging. Maybe because it's just more relevant to what is happening right now. So after I read that book, I got involved with her Modern Prairie app for a women of a certain age. And it's a really nice app. I've been on some Zoom calls with her. Group Zooms, not me one-on-one. And she's very personable, very likable now. I think much more so than when she was younger. But the book itself was it was a good memoir. I gave it 3 stars. It was average. It's not going to win a prize, but it was an interesting read. And then I did finish The Plum Tree by Ellen Marie Weisman. If you watched my Thousand Island video, you will have heard about the coincidence with this book. So I knew I had this book. I had bought this at Goodwill, and I decided to take it with me when I went on my trip to the Thousand Islands with my friend Lynn. So I was reading it, and one day we went into Clayton, New York, and I visited the Little Bookstore. The Little Bookstore is a super cute bookstore in Clayton, very welcoming. It was small, but they had a really good selection of books. And I saw this book on the shelf with a couple of other books that Ellen Marie Weisman had written. So I pointed it out to my friend. I'm like, oh, look, I brought this book with me. And a sign said that there were some signed copies. Well, I didn't buy one because I had already bought this. So when I went back to the Airbnb and I picked up this book to read, I noticed in the back, in the blurb, that she is actually from the place where our Airbnb was. And our place with the Airbnb, I mean, it's a hamlet. That's how small it is. It's not a village. It's not a town. It's a hamlet. And I said to Lynn, I'm like, what are the odds that I would bring this book with me and the author grew up here? And so I went on the Facebook page for the little library, and I saw that Ellen Marie Weisman had made a post. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's from this area still, because she had written that she had dropped off signed books to the little bookstore in Clayton. I'm like, I just thought that was such a neat coincidence that out of all the books, I picked the book written by the woman who lives in the exact same little tiny place where our Airbnb was. So I'm like, oh, I wish I had been there when she had dropped them off. This book was very good. I gave this 4.5 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars just because it got a little muddy in some parts. Like, I guess it was drawn out when it didn't need to be, just in a couple places. But I really, really liked this book. So this book focuses on a German girl, like the epitome of the Aryan nation. Blonde hair, blue eyes, not wealthy, farm girl. She works for a very wealthy Jewish family and falls in love with Isaac, the son. And it takes place in World War II Germany. But what I liked about this book was a little bit different. It did not focus on the story of the Jews. It focused on the story of the German citizens and how so many of them did not agree with Hitler and did not want to join his army, did not want to fight. And they were told conflicting stories because he took all of their transistor radios from them, and everything that they read, everything that they listened to was only what was transmitted by the German government. So they really were in the dark about so many things. So she hides her boyfriend in their attic. And this really isn't a spoiler because you can kind of, it's on the front. But she winds up in a work concentration camp with him. And she is treated at first like one of the Jewish people that were sent there. She has her number tattooed on her. She sleeps in the barracks. What saves her is the fact that she's German and she looks German and she can cook. So she is made to work as a cook for one of the commandants. It was interesting because she gets a glimpse into what was going on in this concentration camp. And people don't believe her. How about that? Sound familiar? People don't believe her. And it's a great story of love, the atrocities of war, the strength of the people who survived despite what was happening. It's a great reminder that not all Germans who were citizens were bad because they didn't know what was going on and they were just as afraid. So I loved it. It had a really nice ending. It was very good. The Plum Tree by Ellen Marie Weissman. I read another book by her called The Orphan Collector. Collector or Collectors? It's The Orphan Collector. That was a very good book too. I really just recommend her as an author, so check her out. She has a website. I'll link it below. So those were my June books that I read. Woohoo! 7 is my what do I want to say? It's the most books I've read in a month so far. So I am going to actually check to see if any of them belong to any of the 52 book challenge categories. Well, out of all those books, the only category that I could cross off is a book with a yellow spine. That was it. So I have a lot more categories that I need to work through. So I think I'm going to go to the library on Monday afternoon. I think I'm going to try to just write down some of these categories and see if I can find books that match them. And then once I get back, I will be doing a July TBR. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you on my next video. Happy reading.